Hello friends, welcome to my channel. Please do me a favor, like and subscribe. So we had a pretty big update today in the Franke Jodi Hildebrandt case. Details of 3 different search warrants have been released today. This is a trigger warning for anyone who may find this information disturbing. So I've put together a little slideshow so that it's easier to understand the information and all the details involved. Now this took place on August 30th at Jodi Hildebrandt's home in Ivins, Utah, after Franke's son escaped from her home, ran to a neighbor's house, and asked for help. Now, there was a total of 3 search warrants. There were 2 on August 30th, which was the day of the incident, for Jodi's property and communication devices, and 1 August 30th, the day after, for Jodi's cell phone. Now, the first search warrant was issued for Jodi's property around 2 p.m. on August 30th, and that is because a sergeant with the Santa Clara Ivins Police Department had reason to believe there were items described at her address as, quote, property used in commissions of the criminal offense of CA. Officers found the victim's mother, Franke, had left her 3 children in the care of Jodi Hildebrandt. One of the search warrant affidavits states, officers also found that Jodi Hildebrandt had posted several posts on social media and YouTube where she discusses mental health and family therapy. In a statement included in the affidavit for the search warrant, upon arrival, officers found that a 12-year-old victim had duct tape around their ankles and appeared to be emaciated because the victim was abnormally thin and weak. The affidavit continued to say that medical personnel removed the duct tape and located open wounds. The victim informed officers and medical personnel that the wounds were from the rope that was used to tie the victim to the ground. The victim informed officers that Jodi put the ropes on their ankles and wrists and that, quote, they used cayenne pepper and honey to dress wounds. So not only were these poor children emaciated and duct taped, they were tied to the ground. And I would love to know who the they is. According to the affidavit, officers conducted a protective sweep and located one juvenile who was reluctant to speak with officers. They also identified a possible safe room in the basement that is locked, and it's unknown if anyone is inside. The affidavit ended with the officers' request to obtain any and all evidence relating to CA and access to the possible safe room to determine that no one else was inside. Now, there was some back and forth about whether this panic room situation was real, if there was in fact a panic room, and as it turns out, there was a panic room. There was also a lot of confusion about just how many of Ruby's kids were at Jodi's house, and now we know for a fact that it was 3 who were at Jodi's home. So now we're going to move on to what exactly they found at Jodi's home. So they had listed Scott's tape and saran wrap, papers, notes, a journal, 2 bowls containing a red liquid with a metal spoon, 2 super absorbent dressings, 2 Coban bandages with 4 white ankle socks, 3 sets of a brown and white rope, 2 handcuffs, 3 carabiners, and, quote, 2 used medical gauze dressings near cayenne pepper and honey paste. So now we're going to move on to the second search warrant, also signed the same day. Now, for this warrant, they wanted communication between Jodi and Ruby, any recordings of alleged CA. So it says, request for any and all cell phones, auto recordings, computers, tablets, laptops, surveillance footage, doorbell cameras, and any other communication device used to send text messages or email or any other audio/visual communications. And then they actually got 3 Apple iPhones and 4 Apple MacBook computers. Now, the last and final search warrant was on August 31st, just before 8 a.m., for Jodi Hildebrandt's cell phone. The detective with the Santa Clara Ivins Police Department requested Jodi Hildebrandt's iPhone, saying she was in possession of the phone when officers made contact with her. There's no documentation of a return made on the search warrant, therefore it's unknown if Jodi's phone was seized. Now, something I just thought was interesting, when they did the search warrants for Jodi's property and the electronic devices, they didn't list that they confiscated any kind of Ring doorbell cameras, any kind of surveillance video, and I find it really hard to believe that with a $3 million home, you don't have any of that. So it almost makes me wonder if she did and maybe she got rid of it. I think Jodi probably noticed that Ruby's son was missing and then contacted Ruby right away, because if you'll remember, Kevin's lawyer did that interview with Law and Crime where he said that Ruby contacted Kevin telling him to come down, that it was an emergency, and this was before she was even arrested or anything. I also want to point out that they put in this article, while cayenne pepper has long been an ingredient used for medicinal purposes, it should not be used on cracked skin or open wounds. Now, I did not know that this could be treated for wounds, because when you first hear cayenne pepper, you're instantly, well, that's hot. Wouldn't that burn? That was like my first instinct when I heard that. So apparently you can use it for certain things, but definitely not the wounds this child had. I feel like the more and more time that goes on and the more and more details we're learning, it just keeps getting worse and worse. I can't even imagine the trauma these kids had to endure and the amount of time and therapy it's going to take them to heal from all this. It just absolutely breaks my heart. That's all I have for you today. If you could, please do me a favor and hit the like button. And if you'd like more updates on this case, please hit subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think down below in the comments. Like, subscribe, and share.